Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 93. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Glad to be back with you guys for this Monday show. Usually we do Tuesday and Friday here in the offseason, Dave, but a lot to talk about. 2 new Steelers signed over the weekend. That's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We said probably going to something happen. I don't know if we thought maybe this kind of low level this early, but 2 new Steelers to indeed talk about. So I guess we should get busy talking about them, huh?
We should, yeah. Kevin Colbert really dumpster diving here early in free agency, but 2 new Steelers signed, basically announced within the hour of each other. That is linebacker / safety Miles Killebrew, formerly of the Detroit Lions, to a 1-year deal. We do not know the money on that yet, but we imagine it's probably for the minimum, relatively close to it. And also Joe Haeg, veteran offensive lineman, most recently with the Bucs last season. We do not know contract terms on that, though, again, probably a pretty low-level deal. So Killebrew and Haeg, those are the types of free agents the Steelers could afford, and those are the ones who are coming in.
Absolutely, and probably not surprising. That's kind of where they're at already in the process here. But we do not know, as you said, we do not know the contract terms. But I mean, if you just looking, at their cap space, in their situation, and the kind of player that each of those 2 players are, man, it's hard to imagine those not being what they call the qualifying contracts, right? At worst, minimum salary type deals. You would think that they would have. Let's see. I'm betting they look really similar to, and in fact, they probably are going to match what B.J. Finney, I think, got. That is a $990,000 base salary, probably a signing bonus for each of them in the lines of $137,500. That's the maximum that you can give as far as a qualifying contract. And if indeed those are qualifying contracts, and if indeed that's a signing bonus that both those 2 got, $987,500 cap charge on each of them, which should barely move the salary cap needle. Heck, I mean, the Steelers can't afford to pay those guys much more than that, unless there's something out there that we don't know, in the form of a restructure or something like that. Now, the NFLPA has not updated their salary cap page in several days. That's not surprising this time of year because of the onslaught of contracts that they're having to process and things along that nature. But right now, we don't believe that there has been any sort of a contract restructure done, and this team has under $2 million in salary cap space at this point as well, too. So not a lot of room to work with those 2 players from a contract side of things. And probably by the end of the day or the next 24 hours, we should have the full contract details on both of them.
Yeah, so stay posted to Steelers Depot for those numbers whenever they come in. But from a player on-field standpoint, let's start with Killebrew, since he was really the first player announced right before Haeg on, was that Saturday, I believe. And, the way that I frame Killebrew is you can call him a safety, you can call him a linebacker. He's kind of been listed as both in his time with Detroit, but where he'll actually really play, make an impact is on special teams. One of the better special teams coverage guys in football over the last 5 years. I believe he is third most special teams tackles with 42 or 43 of them. So he's been a real core guy. Had the tied for the 11th most special team snaps in football last season, second most on the Lions, over 350 of them, and he does that job really well. So defensively, he's not going to give you much, really anything. But special teams, he'll be a core guy.
Yeah, you had to think Danny Smith is the happy one after this one, right? I think you've hit it best on this, and there's not a lot of defensive tape on it from last year at all, right?
He didn't play a single snap defensively last year.
I mean, and even going back to the year before, what did he have defensive snap wise?
Like 50 or 80 snaps, and those came more of a linebacker. So I guess if you want to call him anything defensively, it's probably more of a rundown linebacker, but he's a special teams guy mostly.
Absolutely. And the thing that sticks out, I think didn't he have a punt block last year against, who was it, Colts? Or I'm trying to think who it was against. But there was one punt block that he had. The thing that sticks out about him, especially on kickoffs, man, he got some straight line to him. For supposedly the speed that he has, good at getting down the field in a hurry, and he's not afraid to throw his body around at all. Fairly decent tackler. And I think as evidenced by the number of total tackles he's had since 2016, is that when he came into the league?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the good thing about you being with Steelers Depot so long now is he's even in the archives. You profiled him, and I think the last sentence at the end of it of that profile was what this guy's clearly special teams value, and probably I forget exactly what you wrote in there, but you're proud. After looking at the film, you deemed him as kind of special teams demon possibility, and that was it.
Yeah, I didn't really like his tape defensively. Small school kid out of Southern Utah. I said, as I'm quoting myself here, narcissistic as it sounds, I don't really even view Killebrew as a draftable prospect, though odds are good he gets taken in roughly the 5th round. He went 4th round to Detroit. I finished the report by saying I dig him for the special teams factor, but that's about it. And that's really what he's become, as a core special teams kind of guy when he was with Detroit. And also, for whatever it's worth, and I imagine it's probably worth something, whenever he got drafted by the Lions in 2016, his defensive coordinator, Terrell Austin, who's now the senior assistant defensive backs coach in Pittsburgh. So there's probably a connection there that helped bring him to Pittsburgh. He was actually on my free agency wish list last year when I thought it's a 1-to-1 replacement for losing Tyler Medikevich. He went back to Detroit on another 1-year deal. So I was a year early in calling the Miles Killebrew signing.
There you go. You get full credit for it.
Do I? Does it count? So
I kind of view this no expiration on that.
I kind of view this as the new Dirty Red. I mean, maybe it's a little bit different because he's kind of got the safety potential, and maybe he could compete with Antoine Brooks for a dimebacker type role. You have a similar kind of body type and skill set. But really, this is a special teams, guy that's going to make his hay there. Yeah,
you're not going to want this guy out on the field too terribly much on the defensive side of the ball. Something's gone terribly wrong, I think. You definitely don't want him in coverage. You'd probably want him in the box or something like that more than anything. Now, it'll be interesting to see if they get a guy like Jordan Dangerfield back, or if this is the new Jordan Dangerfield,
Yeah, that's my question. I think it's the most interesting question of them all is, who does he replace? Is it Dangerfield? Is it some sort of building block in replacing Vince Williams? Is it Deshaun Davis replacement? And I say that from the sense of, Sean Davis was the left wing on punts last year, and Killebrew started last season with Detroit, the left wing on the punt team there. And Davis really struggled to get a hat defensively last season until the regular season finale when Edmonds missed that game. So is this actually, I know it kind of sounds weird to say, but Sean Davis' replacement, I'm not sure. That was my feel of the situation, just considering where they played on special teams. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. I hope it doesn't mean the end for Jordan Dangerfield, because I would love to have Killebrew and Dangerfield and Derek Watt, for that matter, running down kicks and punts.
Absolutely, those would be some great options to have when it comes to special team core members. But on top of it, you do need to have some that have some defensive ability there, and of the three, Davis, Jordan Dangerfield, and Killebrew, Dangerfield's probably got not much, not in superior to the nth degree, but I would think he would have the most value as a defensive player.
Yeah, I mean, you would think Davis, but they just really refused to play him last season. I think Dangerfield was even getting more looks in some sort of sub package and specialty packages stuff over Sean Davis. So we'll see. And could Killebrew be the up back for Pittsburgh? Sure, he wasn't that in Detroit last year. Doesn't mean he can't be, but if Dangerfield does not return, that'll be a pretty important role to replace if Danger does not come back.
Right.
So overall, I'm happy with the signing. I know it's not gonna, get a lot of headlines or anything, but he's, a core guy, and he's gonna cover kicks and punts. And especially when your punting game isn't very strong, I don't know how much better it's gonna get for next season. This is a good way to help improve your net average by just having a really strong coverage unit.
Yeah, if you don't let him return for many yards, absolutely that helps.
Right. All right, Dave, the other signing that came in just an hour after the Killebrew signing, these have not been officially announced by the Steelers, but they've been reported and are going to happen. Joe Haeg, veteran offensive lineman, again with the Bucks, Super Bowl winning Bucks last season, famously thrown to in the Super Bowl and could not haul in the pass. He's played tackle, he's played guard, but I think we both view him as a tackle-eligible 6 offensive lineman as an immediate role in Pittsburgh.
I got my tight end.
Careful
right?
What you wish for. Yeah.
Right. I didn't realize it was going to go this way here, but when you look at they've got to do something to get the run game better, right? And when you consider last year, who was your primary reporting eligible last year? It was probably Gerald Hawkins. I think had the most snaps with that, and overall, it wasn't great in those situations. The thing that stuck out immediately with Haeg when you went back and looked at his tape from last year with Tampa Bay was how much he was used as that eligible player there at the end of the line of scrimmage there. Now, I think he played 160 snaps, somewhere along those lines. Not very many. I'll tell you what he's not. He's not a guard. And he can play there in a pinch. Overall, I think he had something like 50 or 60 snaps, I think, against the Saints last season there when it came to having to play some guard. Not great tape there. I mean, that's to me, him playing at guard is break glass in case of emergency type situation there. Tackle, I think he's. I think he can give you some snaps there in a pinch. Once again, keep your fingers crossed that you don't have to rely on him to start there a lot. Now, he did play, I think, during his time at Indianapolis, all 4 positions at one point. Both tackle spots, both guard spots there. I view, and going back and looking at a little bit of that tape, I view his best position overall from what we've seen for the entire selection of his tape as the tight end eligible. I view that as his best position. And then second to that, I would say right tackle was his second best position.
Okay. So do you view him as more likely, obviously 6 offensive linemen, tackle eligible, and swing tackle for this team behind Banner and a core 4?
Man, can he swing? Yeah. Do I have a lot of confidence in him being that next guy up? I kind of would grit my teeth, right?
Yeah, well, it's hard to find a good backup left tackle in this league. There's hardly any good starting left tackles in football. So I hear you. I mentioned tackle eligible, something to actually kind of look at. That's why my wish list, I suggested James Hurst of the Saints. Now, he went back to New Orleans on a $9 million contract, way too much money. But so this kind of makes sense. And is this going to magically transform this run game? No, of course not. But I think it is able to be one of those building blocks in improving your run game. And for whatever it's worth, it's probably not much, but we love the numbers. With Joe Haeg used as a 6 offensive lineman on run plays last year for the Bucks, they averaged 3.9 yards per carry at 54% run success rate and had 6 touchdowns. And those were all better than Gerald Hawkins' numbers. Again, Haeg nor Hawkins are solely responsible for that success or failure, but that is kind of worth mentioning that the Bucks seem to have a pretty decent success rate when Haeg was in the game as that 6 offensive lineman.
And what was it? What you had the success rate at? What values did you use on that?
I used 40% on first down, 50% second down, and then everything third down, except for 7+ yard situations, which never came up last season for the Bucks.
All right. The thing that when he is used on the end of the line of scrimmage, there he gets some push off the line. Sometimes he won't necessarily stick on his blocks, maybe as long as you'd like to see him do. But and especially from the help standpoint, whether he's kind of that either that inside into the line of scrimmage, depending on how many tight ends and the sides that you have lined up on. Either side does good at helping and especially blocking down. And as we've and as I think you pointed out several times, especially when this team plays 4-3 defenses, needing somebody that can block that base 4-3 end. Either controlling them or blocking down. That's where I think Haeg excels the most there. Once the tackle play is okay, especially at right tackle. I would get concerned if you had to rely on him several games, though, to start at either tackle spot.
My concern with him at tackle is, and you know this answer probably than I do, when was the last time he actually played tackle? Because he didn't do it last year in Tampa Bay. He had the one starter left guard. And he started early in his career with the Colts. I think he started a good chunk of the season his first 2 years with Indy. But when has he actually played tackle?
It's been a while.
Yeah. So, I mean, how much do we trust tackle tape from 2018 compared to where it's going to be in 2021?
Let me tell you exactly here. I
think in 2019, he barely even played for the Colts. He was getting a couple snaps here and there.
2018, week 1, 81 snaps at left tackle. The next 2 weeks at right tackle in weeks 2 and weeks 3. He went on to play, some right guard later on in weeks 15 and week 16 of the 2018 season.
Okay. So that's basically been the last time he's played tackle in a game.
Let me double check here. 19. It wasn't 20.
No, I don't think it was 19. Maybe for 3 or 4 snaps, but that's about it.
Yeah, I've got down here 18.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not too long ago, and he's only still 27. So it's not like he's 30 something, and there could be a real decline in skills. But yeah, it's just been a while for him.
Right.
So, but again, a fine signing, very low level. I think an upgrade over Gerald Hawkins, just in all respects, honestly. But I mean, this isn't going to magically transform things, but some veteran depth along the offensive line, I think, is a necessary signing.
Absolutely, and look, if you're going to dedicate to the run game, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's maybe just one small step, and hopefully several more steps of trying to upgrade and improve this thing. All right, Dave, where to next?
You can't imagine either one of these guys being signed for more than the minimum, right?
I mean, maybe Haeg gets a little bit more just because offensive linemen just are so expensive to sign, but I mean, they're both going to be very, very cheap.
Right.
All right, Dave, where to next?
You tell me. All
right. Well, let's talk about some of the comments from speaking offensive lineman. Zach Banner was on Steelers Nation Radio, I think The Drive is what they call it, this past week, and had a really good discussion. I guess this was after when he signed his contract. It must have been. But just talking about, I think to me, one of the more notable things was that his knee and his rehab. And he said hopefully he'll be good to go by mini camps, assuming there actually are mini camps. Who knows if that's going to exist or not. But it sounds like Banner's right on track when it comes to his rehab.
Yeah, one of the most positive things to come out of that, I think, is he's back. He went back out to California for a little bit there and saw got his knee his ACL double checked out there, and he says got double checked during free agency by a second opinion out on the West Coast, a very, very high profile doctor who felt my knee and moved it in certain different ways and looked at it and said, Zach, this doesn't feel like a 6-month knee. This feels like a 9-month knee. Just keep doing what you're doing. I have my knees are like 36 months. But he real positive, and he said, look, basically I think 9 weeks is kind of the timetable that he put on that thing, thinking that that's when he's going to be able to go kind of full at it again. And obviously knows that he's got to be careful too and not overdo it. And he did mention, around the mini camp stage there, but at worst, if he has to hold off a little bit, he really feels confident that by the start of training camp that he'll be ready to go there. So, None of that's news breaking here whatsoever because of the fact that, he injured that knee in week 1. And if there was one, I guess, bright spot to that was the fact that it happened so early in the season that he got the surgery right away there, and he'll have damn near a full year's recovery time on that. So and you would think that the Steelers have obviously been following that surgery rehab closely as well too, and would have gave him a real good checkup and all before signing him to that 2-year contract that he just recently signed as well. So there you go.
Yeah, don't imagine it's going to be an issue whenever he comes back. And, by training camp, he should be good to go. And that's the most important thing. So that's all good news there. He also talked about, defending the hire of Adrian Clem, and talked about the importance of Clem's role as the assistant offensive line coach, able to dedicate more time in terms of teaching and working with the younger guys and the backups and things like that. So Banner, definitely a fan of the Clem hire, and I can understand that if he felt like you got developed by that guy and really helped in your own growth and development and your kind of comeback story that is Zach Banner, then certainly you would defend and advocate for Clem being the guy. So, we'll see how it works out. Clem's going to be given a fair shake and opportunity here. But we'll see what happens.
All right, we got a little contract update here on Joe Haeg here, according to over the cap. It's actually a 2-year deal with him. Looks like 2-year deal worth, let's see, he's getting $1 million signing bonus. He's getting 3.1 in salary. So it's 2 years.
4.6 according to Aaron Wilson.
4.6 according to Aaron Wilson here. So
like I said, those linemen, they get paid a little bit. They're just worth a lot.
All right. So that puts his cap number at $1.5 million for 2021. He's got a roster bonus due in 2022, and that looks like it's March. So this is basically a 1-year, $2 million contract is what this is, basically.
Yeah, Aaron Wilson says 5th year of 2022 is when the roster bonus is going to be due. So, yeah, those linemen just get paid just because they're always in high demand, and they always get probably overpaid, but that's, just because of the scarcity of the talent at the position.
So they probably value him a little bit more than, as a tackle than probably what I think they should, but, there you go.
Yeah, so I imagine for this year he's probably going to be your swing tackle eligible, and can play guard in a pinch, but hopefully this team drafts a center, kind of pushes B.J. Finney into a reserve backup role as a top center, top guard, and that really keeps Haeg being able to get reps at tackle. The other thing is you have to think about, if you're going to be the swing guy, how often do you get reps during practice at all these positions? So if you can kind of break it down into backup tackle versus backup interior guy and have Finney in the latter role and Haeg in the former role, that's probably best from a rep, preparedness, readiness, overall standpoint. So we'll see. But yeah, those are the numbers on Joe Haeg, and so that moves the cap a little bit. But that is just whenever I saw a guy like in free agency, Pat Elflein, who got cut by the Vikings last year, claimed on waivers, started 16 for the Jets. He got over $4 million per season. You kind of know that the offensive line market is just always hotter than probably what it should be, just again because of the lack of talent at the position.
Yeah, one other quick note here. As of right now, and we'll see how long it lasts for. The signing of Haeg actually impacts the compensatory balance sheet right now, according to Nick Corte of Over the Cap. The signing of Haeg cancels out the 7th round compensatory pick generated by Tyson Alualu, but he goes on to say, but with the likelihood of Alejandro Villanueva and James Conner still waiting to be signed, they could get a better comp pick coming back soon on that. I guess you're right. I guess you have to pay a little bit to get that. I'm going to have to go back and take a longer look at Joe Haeg's right tackle tape from 2018. Because this guy's going to stick now. He's got to stick now. He doesn't have to. You only have what it would be if you had to cut him. You'd end up having $500,000 in dead money this year and $500,000 next year. And I wouldn't think that they guaranteed that $1 million base salary of his this year. Maybe they did, but as of right now, it looks like they are counting on Joe Haeg to possibly be that swing tackle guy.
Yeah, it's looking like it. So, yeah, that is just the price you got to pay for offensive linemen, as I said earlier. But, hopefully he can have some sort of positive role in that swing tackle regard, and then also more importantly is that 6 offensive lineman tackle eligible. Just don't throw to him, Matt Canada. All right, Dave.
Matt Filer Light, right? Yeah. How do you view him overall? That's the best comp, recency comp that I can come up with was Matt Filer Light.
Yeah.
You definitely don't want to put him in there at guard, do you?
Worse. No, I would prefer not to. But do I even want to put him a tackle? It was kind of the question I'm asking myself. I just don't. I don't know how to compare him. I just, he's just a swing guy. Just a versatile chess piece and 6 offensive linemen. I'm not sure who that comps most favorably or unfavorably to. I guess I could see that Filer comparison though. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
He's an upgrade over Hawkins, so there's that.
Yep. Yeah, I call him better Gerald Hawkins, I guess is how I'll put it.
Right. Boy, gonna be interesting now to see what the Miles Killebrew. I was fairly confident both these would be minimum kind of guy, minimum salary kind of guys. But they thought highly enough of him to give him $1 million signing bonus and a $1 million base salary, $1.5 million $1.5 million cap charge in 2021. By the time depending on which guy you want to displace here, subtract 6. It costs you $900,000 in cap space to sign him.
Yeah, Killebrew I think should still be pretty cheap because it's a 1-year deal, and usually those you don't see get more money until you get into the multi-year deals like Zach Banner and Chris Wormley and Joe Haeg. So I think Killebrew should still be really cheap overall, but we'll have to wait and get the word on those numbers hopefully by the next podcast.
Or by the end of this one, maybe. We'll see.
2 minutes after this one, probably is how it goes. All right, Dave. Alex Highsmith also speaking. He was on Sirius Radio with Chris Russo and Mad Dog Sports Radio. Is that who he was talking to?
I forget the
Sirius.
He was on Sirius. He was on Mad Dog Radio, and who was the host? Russo, is that right?
I think that's who hosts it. Anyway, so he was talking about kind of his improvements and needing to step his game up, especially now that he's knows for sure he's filling the shoes of Bud Dupree since Dupree signed with the Tennessee Titans. And good interview. And Highsmith's just a really mature, smart kid that recognizes where he has to improve and get better, and that's always a great place to start, just having that introspection and knowing this is where I have to get better and where I can improve. And I think when you have that baseline as a rookie, you're in a strong place.
Absolutely, and he talked about having the arsenal of pass rush moves, right?
Yeah, but he made a point that I had made fairly recently in my video review of Alex Highsmith that I think, he has a lot of moves and a lot of ways to win, and that's important and that's good. But I think for him, the mission this offseason going into year number 2 is finding those 1 or 2 go-to moves, those ones with a game on the line, third down, you can go to and win with. One outside move and 1 counter is basically all you need as a pass rusher. James Harrison, one with just 2 moves overall. And that's what Highsmith said. He wants to work on perfecting just a couple of those moves and getting really good at it. So I think that is maybe the biggest thing for him to work on this offseason, in addition to, I think, just getting stronger overall.
And we saw him grow in that area of pass rush moves. He had the ghost move. He had that nice spin move against the Colts later on in the season there. So your overall breakdown of him just recently that's on the site as well, I think showed that he progressed as the season went on as a pass rusher.
He did, but the question I asked in that video was, what is Alex Highsmith's best move, or what are his go-to moves? And I'm not 100% sure of what that is. I don't think he knows exactly what that is right now. The spin is probably going to be his best counter to the inside, but what is that outside move that you really feel like you can win with? And so there's a lot of tools in the tool belt, and that's great, but I think refining 1 or 2 and perfecting 1 or 2 of those moves is the key to being a really great pass rusher.
And he also talked about how he knows that with Bud Dupree now gone, that he's got to carry his side of that pass rush over there, because and he pointed out that, look, I've got to make sure that offensive lines aren't cheating over to Watt's side there. So look, he knows those shoes that he has to fill here, right? I think the good thing is going back through those last 4, at least the final 4 or 5 regular season games. I think it was 4 or 5 that he had to start after Bud Dupree went down. Is TJ Watt was still able to get some sacks and do what he needed to do for the most part on that side there. Now, however, nobody got sacks there in the playoff game. One of the most disturbing things about that Cleveland Browns game, well, there were a lot of them there, was the fact that as beat up as that that Cleveland offensive line was missing pieces there, that the Steelers defense for the most part, didn't do much of anything, as pass rushers. And that's across the board, period, there. And that was a concerning aspect of it there. So, yeah, look, he's got some Highsmith has some big shoes to fill there over on that side, and, going to have to mature very, very quickly. And I think he knows the fact that hopefully he'll have an off-season program. Look, for all that he went through, and I think he acknowledges too, he didn't use it as a crutch or an excuse or anything. Last year was what it was, right? And for him to come out and shoot and play as many snaps as he did on defense, and then obviously increase that over the years without having any benefit of an OTA program, not much of a training camp, or he did have the training camp, but no mini camps along the way and all like that. He overcame all that. So hopefully, and he said TJ Watt's good about helping him out, and why wouldn't he be? I would stay tied to the hip to a guy like TJ Watt throughout this offseason as much as I could. There, you would hope to see some semblance of a nice second year player jump with a guy like Alex Highsmith. Now, look, one of the main concerns here too is Bud Dupree wasn't shabby against the run, and that's one area I think that Highsmith gonna might take a little bit of time to develop it. Needs to get a lot stronger, but the good thing too is he's already got his Instagram kind of fired up, and he's hard at work out there, I think, in North Carolina with Beast Behavior, working on his off-season training already.
Yeah, it should be a good second year for Alex Highsmith when you have the combination of a decent amount of experience as a rookie that gives you a lot of tape, a lot of ability to make mistakes, learn from them, his work ethic, his football IQ, and having some good teammates and guys to learn from like TJ Watt, I think is a good combination for a strong sophomore season.
Absolutely.
All right, Dave, where do you want to go to right now? Let's talk about a conversation that we had on Friday and that I just got wrong. I was probably assuming stuff and taking a little bit of information that I was reading, and I was just wrong about. And I think we should correct the record on how these voidable year contracts actually work in terms of compensatory formula and franchise tag. And on Friday, I basically said you can't get comp picks for him and you can't franchise tag him. Turns out I was wrong on both things. At least it appears to be. There's still some gray area with some of this stuff, but it does seem like, and we had a long conversation, you, I, and Matthew Marksey last night, it does appear that players with voidable contracts, voidable years in their contract, can be franchise tagged, and we are basically positive that you can get comp picks for them if they leave whenever their contract voids.
This ended up being one of those word problems that they give you where they tried to trick you.
Like some SAT.
Yeah. I don't even know. My SATs were so low, I don't even think they gave me the score.
I'm just proud you took the SATs. That's good. Did you really take the SATs?
Yes, I did. I did. I showed up for those. I didn't score very well in them, obviously, but that's probably not a shock there. But this is one of those things, I think, when you sit back and you try to you look at it more at a what is the base of it? Just look at the facts of it, and then try to go from there. And what I'm getting at here is the key element here is, I believe, that the rest of the contract voids, those dates that we throw out, like the 5 days after the Super Bowl for Roethlisberger and JuJu Smith-Schuster. The key aspect here is that the rest of the contract voids on those certain dates, not the actual year that the player is in. So, in other words, the voidable years are what voids 5 days after the Super Bowl.
Right. So for Ben, that would be 2021 never actually voids, 2022 and on voids, correct?
And same with JuJu.
Right. So that's the reason. That's the difference.
So basically, and what that means, you probably say, "Boy, what the heck does that mean?" Well, the 2021 contract year doesn't actually end until the start of the new league year in March of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and so basically, Roethlisberger and JuJu would be scheduled to become unrestricted free agents on day one of the start of the new league year in 2022 in March. All right. And thus, barring there being any language in either of those deals that says you cannot franchise tag me, then that would mean the franchise tag element of the offseason would be involved in that. In other words, if they wanted to franchise Roethlisberger, but as long as he doesn't have language in there that says they can't, they can either franchise tag him or franchise tag JuJu. And obviously, neither one of those two, unless there's something in the language once again, which I wouldn't think that there would be, is that you can negotiate deals with those guys up until they become unrestricted free agents next March there. So, and on top of it, being as how both won't technically or shouldn't technically become unrestricted free agents until day one of the 2022 league year next March, then that if they did go on and sign contracts somewhere else, they would count as compensatory free agents at that point. So, I think we have solved the riddle here, and really the whole minutia. Well, we haven't used minutia in a while, have we?
No, good to bring that one back.
I think the whole minutia aspect of it is getting bogged down in what happens the fifth day after the Super Bowl. And we have working examples, recent examples of this too. Romeo, what's his last name?
Aquaro.
Right. He is really kind of the most, I think, kind of interesting and recent example of this. He had his voidable years void 5 days after the Super Bowl, but he didn't become a street free agent at that time, and he showed up on the NFL list as being a unrestricted free agent along with the rest of them at the start of the new league year. Go back to a year ago with Tom Brady. Now his was a little bit different. His voidable years actually expired on the last day of the 2019 league year, and then the next day he became an unrestricted free agent. He obviously signed with Tampa Bay, and he was part of the compensatory formula there as a lost free agent for the New England Patriots there. Now, the people are going to say, what is the difference between why does it matter? Why does it matter where you put the date at? 5 days after Super Bowl versus last day of the league year. I don't know. That's the thing. To me, it's just a date in the calendar. I asked Joel Corey about that, and he says just a date. That doesn't matter really. So I had to get a little bit more clarification on that.
Yeah, I don't think it matters much at all, but that is just that is an example. The Pats got a third-round comp pick for losing Tom Brady, so we know for sure you can get comp picks for him, and we're pretty sure you can franchise tag as well. I don't think there's an actual example of somebody with avoidable years who ended up being franchise tagged, but we believe that option is at least available to teams.
Absolutely.
So good information there. I'm glad we could correct the record and have that knowledge going forward, because we may encounter the situation time and time again. All right, Dave, let's talk about the draft here briefly. And I actually should mention some news that just came across a couple minutes ago that Jerry Olszewski, the inside linebackers coach, is at Missouri's pro day to check out Nick Bolton. And so that is notable there with the release of Vince Williams, that Olszewski is on the scouting trail for Nick Bolton.
Oh yeah, that looks like they're. I mean, look, Jerry O's out there, and we had to report the other day about TCU kid, right?
Yeah, Garrett Wall, is that who you're referring to?
Right. Saying that he had talked to the Steelers linebacker coach. Now we have two of the three, right? That known people at the TCU Pro Day. Very well, Jerry O. Very well could have been the third one there, right?
Yeah, we know that Terrell Austin was there, and I believe it was Kelvin Fisher, an area scout, was there as well. You can have up to 3, so Steelers could have had a third at TCU. We do not know for sure, though.
They're definitely looking for an inside linebacker type. It looks like, right? So, I mean, and with Bolton, he's I think considered top 2 round prospect, right?
Yeah, he's probably not going to make it to 55 for Pittsburgh. I mean, maybe, but most projections have him as a late day 1, early day 2 kind of a guy. So, looking at an inside linebacker isn't a surprise on the heels of the release of Vince Williams, but looking at one that high is interesting. Of course, you're going to get cast a wide net, and you're going to look at everybody and all the options. So that's nothing too alarming, so to speak, for lack of a better word. But if you want to take those guys, these are top level guys in the class.
And we don't know yet of Mike Tomlin's. You would think word would have surfaced already if Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert were at this Missouri Pro Day, and if they're not, that would be pretty big news, right? As far as Bolton goes in the first round possible selection, right?
Yeah, given the history of the Tomlin-Colbert Pro Day relationship, the first-round picks, it'd be notable if they were or weren't there. As far as I know, they are not there, but I cannot say with certainty that they aren't there right now.
We're starting to get some video in here as well from their pro day, so you'll be fine too. It looks like he's running. Let's see. I don't think we have any times yet on this, but he's going through the process and all.
He better test well. He's not big. He's listed 5'11", 228, so he better test well.
Yeah, he better test well, and I guess he fits right in that range of 5'11", 6 foot is right where the Steelers kind of normally in the past like to draft their the height of their linebackers overall, right? Somewhere between 5'11" and 6'1".
Well, usually the guys that are 6 foot and above, if you're Devin Bush is under that threshold, but he tested off the charts. So if you're going to be short and small, you better run well. And I'm not sure Bolton will. I think he'll test okay, but I don't know if that lack of great athleticism and below average size is a dubious combination generally for the NFL.
Have you gotten a chance to watch him much or no?
No, just going off of the Josh Carney report, who liked him and said he was a tackling machine. But sometimes I worry about those guys that have a lot of college tackles and it doesn't always seem to translate if they don't have those skills to make it work in the NFL. So I haven't watched him too much. I don't want to judge him too much, but the overall feeling I get is not warm and fuzzy.
All right, and the Alabama Pro Day is, I think, tomorrow, and I think the interviews are today. You have to think Tomlin and Colbert are going to be at that front and center on Tuesday, right?
Absolutely. The question is, who will be the third member there? Will it be Adrian Clem for those offensive linemen? Is it going to be receivers coach Ike Hilliard for the receivers? Probably not, but potentially Eddie Faulkner for Najee Harris. Very interested in who the third musketeer is going to be.
All right, good deal. We'll report that as soon as we know.
And then also at TCU, safety Trevon Moehrig said he had spoken with the Steelers as well, and he's one of maybe the top safety in this class.
Super, what's the word that I'm looking for? Hyper player, right? Moves all over the place in that TCU defense. Man, play him in a slot, play him in deep safety, play him down low in the box. So you want to talk about a guy that you want to talk about today's new age virtual chess piece kind of players. He's it, man. He moves all over the place.
And the Steelers could use some versatility because it sounds like Cam Sutton, whatever role he's going to have, is going to be generally kind of static this season, I should say. We're in the new league year. So having a versatile chess piece kind of to fill that Sutton role would be helpful.
Absolutely.
And then watch out for day 3 guy Ardarius Washington, who kind of has that similar versatility, although he is very undersized and not a good athlete. And that is not a great sign for the NFL, but he could be an option on day number 3.
Right.
All right, Dave, I think that kind of covers most of what I had planned to talk about. I just want to go back to, and this is kind of a reference to my terrible take I'll have today for Steelers Depot. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the apparent report and apparent decision by the Steelers to move Steven Nelson one way or another, whether that's through trade or cutting him, whatever the case is. I feel like, why was this, assuming this is true, why was this the Steelers' only option, they felt like, to dump their best cornerback? Couldn't there have been Joe Haeg with a voidable year extension, other creative moves in this offseason of all this creativity? It just seems so bizarre that they felt like the only thing they could do right now was to release their best cornerback.
I mean, look, it came out of the blue, right? I mean,
yeah. We're talking about extension with him.
Right. We're talking, and I wrote about it, how an extension is plausible and what an extension would look like and all like that. And here's the thing too, people still getting caught up with, and I don't know if we really still have a firm answer yet. I mean, did he ask for a trade? Did they maybe go to him and say, look, can you take a 2-year, can you take a voidable, how did it get to this point? Mm-hmm. The only report that was out there initially was that they have informed him that he can, what was the exact wording of it? That he
granted permission.
Right. Granted permission to seek a trade. Now, did he ask permission? Or are they saying, look, you can go ahead and see if you can work out a trade here, because if not, we're going to have to, probably going to have to cut you,
All of the reporting seems to indicate he has not demanded that, give me a deal or I want out. That was my initial thought, perhaps, but then.
But did he request,
It doesn't sound like it.
Right.
And the fact that the report is, Ian Rappaport said, that they're going to cut him if they can't find a trade partner. If Nelson came to you and said, I want an extension, and you said, no, we can't do it, or we're not going to do it, you're not going to just turn around and cut the guy, even if he isn't happy about that. I mean, it's just not going to happen. You're not just going to cut bait with the guy because he wants an extension. So it sounds like they're doing it because they feel like they have to move Nelson for, I suppose, cap-related reasons.
That's the way it looks like. Boy, people, and if you listen to this, don't get on these players like this on Twitter. Oh man, people going after Nelson and going after Mike Hilton and those kind of things, man. Look, players move on. That's part of this business. So don't get on these guys for signing with the Bengals and once again, we don't know I don't think we know the full specifics with the Steven Nelson here, but. Yeah, I mean, look, it is confusing, especially when you look at what's left behind here. Now, it would all make sense if per se, maybe they moved on from Nelson. They got a super cheap, a cheaper vet maybe to play in the slot, and Cameron Sutton moves outside. But you don't know that you're going to be able to sign that guy.
Right. And are you a better team because of that?
Right.
Probably not. I doubt it. And I know, maybe there's another move. Maybe they bring back Villanueva, but again, are you a better team because you brought in Villanueva over Steven Nelson? It just, none of this makes sense to me. Now I understand, maybe they just felt like they had no other moves, and I know the voidable year extension with Hayden wouldn't save as much money as it will to move on from Steven Nelson, but I don't know. It just doesn't. I just struggle with their apparent decision on this one.
I think that I think this is multi-layered here. They probably don't think he's worth the $8.25 million.
That's bizarre in itself. If
right.
That's true, because he certainly is.
Right. Well, I'm just saying. If they did, they thought they had a bargain there. They wouldn't be
sure.
Unless I wouldn't envision him being any kind of a cancer in the locker room or anything. I mean, he is a little bit unique individual, but he's he's not. He's one of those guys that I don't only speaks when spoken to. I think for the most part. I've never seen him being outlandish or over the top as far as that goes. I just think they got Sutton. They think Sutton can be that guy, and maybe they like their depth chart more than what we do, right? I mean, I don't see how. I mean, you've barely been able to get Pierre or Lane on the field much of anything. I mean, they obviously see those guys in practice, and we don't. But I mean, Nelson. I mean, you look at just this past year. I mean, that was essentially kind of a career year for him, was it not? I mean, maybe one of his better ones of his NFL career, which is albeit it's been not extensive, but I thought he played well last season.
Well, I think 2019 was his best year by far, and there was a step backward last year, but that I think it's just more of a product of 2019 was so good it was almost unrepeatable, and so I thought last year was still a good year for him, just not as good as his first year in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
But still, it sounds like this is cap-related, like just in the way that the Bears released Kyle Fuller, not because they wanted to, but because of cap-related issues. But I just feel like you could have had other creative ways. Again, the Hayden voidable extension, do something with someone else. I don't know. It just feels very fatalist to tell me we have to cut our best cornerback in order to make the cap work.
What do you think? What do you think they're going to get for him, if anything? Kyle. It's probably not as shocking that the Bears couldn't move Fuller, right? Because he had a $13 million salary on top of it there, and teams. The Broncos definitely knew, man. You go ahead and cut that guy, and we're gonna we're gonna be able to sign him and all, and that's what happened. Now, $13 million is a lot different than $8.25 million. But with that said, I mean, you think they're going to ultimately be able to move that salary at this point of the offseason?
I think there will be some suitors for a strong starting cornerback. I mean, I did some research that kind of suggests maybe a 4th round for him, but given how unusual this season is, maybe a 5th or a 6th round pick is more likely for him. I think you could get something for Steven Nelson, but I don't know. I mean, this is such a weird offseason.
From where I sit, I'll if Kevin Colbert gets more than a 6, what did I say, like a mid-5th or higher, kudos to him. At this point, I think I'll be surprised if they get more than a 6 now. Okay. Look, I mean, you have to let this thing ride for at least a little bit here, but not too terribly long into free agency, right? And especially if you're wanting to do more work and along the way here. I mean, we see how limited they are on cap space right now. I guess what I'm getting at is by Friday, if all you got out there is a 7th, you almost got to take it, right?
Yeah, or just cut him if that 7th is coming from some AFC team you don't want to necessarily trade him to, but. I don't know. I just in one bucket, you got the Steelers saying we want to be a Super Bowl team. We want to contend. Ben's potential last year. Let's go for one last ride. Other bucket, you're saying, well, let's lose a ton of free agents. Even guys like Tyson Alualu, and let's also dump our top cornerback.
Several people really have asked me if think that if this can be worked out. In other words, if they can't trade him, is there any way he stays? And it's gotten this. It usually doesn't end like that, right? Usually they say, well, you can seek a trade, especially in the Steelers case. It doesn't end up with a player staying. I guess what I'm getting at, in short, is he's either going to be dealt or he's going to be cut.
Right. If there was any sort of bright spot, I think the Bears allowed Akeem Hicks to look for a trade, and I think he's staying in Chicago. He just didn't find anything out there, so I guess there's a chance. But the reporting, I mean, Ian Rappaport, whatever it's worth, said like he's headed elsewhere. He's either getting traded or he's getting cut. And if this is cap related, then they're going to move on from him for the cap savings, which there will be substantial cap savings in moving on from Steven Nelson. But I don't know. I can't agree with this decision.
Right. Well, I mean, we talked. Does it make you better doing what they just did? These couple of moves, and it doesn't look like it. At least really. From where I'm sitting right now.
Anyway, but you can listen to my rant on the Terrible Take this afternoon. All right, Dave. Anything else we should cover? We have not, or failing that, we can get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
What do you think about the Alejandro Villanueva situation? I mean, look, a bunch of these guys are slow. Man, I probably not super shocked at what's going on with James Conner still, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the running back market has not moved an inch.
The tackle market. Extremely slow too. I mean, you had Trent Williams signed a big deal, but that was back with his former team, right? And it seems like that contract there's some leeway for them to kind of move on, need be. But there's been absolutely nothing with Alejandro Villanueva so far. What does that mean, if anything?
Yeah, it probably means he, like a lot of these guys, would have to take a 1-year deal. And I had backed off the idea of maybe he retires, months ago, because I thought he could get paid this offseason and really get some hard-earned money. But if it's only some 1-year deals that are pretty cheap, I mean, maybe he decides it's just not worth that kind of money, which isn't as much as he had hoped for potentially. So who knows? But if he does, come back or does play anywhere, it's probably on a 1-year deal for not a ton of money.
$10 million?
I think it's going to be less than that.
Wow. Well, JuJu got 9, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Some of these
would you voidable year him?
If you're Pittsburgh?
Yeah, if you could get him for 9 or 10 million, would you basically give him a deal like you just gave JuJu or 1 million more?
Personally, yes, I would. That's going to be a very unpopular answer. And then
I would too. I'll hold your hand across that bridge with you.
I appreciate that. People throwing tomatoes.
Where is his weaknesses? It's run blocking, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He doesn't get the credit that he deserves and hasn't as a pass protector. All right, mm-hmm. And I don't know why that is. Why people have that? Why that narrative? We have proved that he is, more than capable pass protector. Now, run blocking is a whole different story with him. A guy his size out in space and all like that is just not his forte. And he can block down, but getting out on the edge on those, that kind of stuff is just not. That's not his game. Mm-hmm. I'm with you though, but and now the question becomes: is it worth it to have that that voidable year dead money out there?
Right. I mean, for me, if you sign, then obviously he plays left tackle, stays in that spot. Banner is at right tackle. Okorafor is your swing guy, and Joe Haeg is there.
Is the extra? He's the extra guy then.
Right, an extra, tackle eligible and all that. But based on them, signing Zach Banner, he's going to start. Okorafor, I still think is probably going to start. Then you go out there and sign Joe Haeg. Their moves aren't indicating necessarily a desire to bring back Villanueva. Now, it doesn't mean you can't bring him back just because you signed Joe Haeg, but it doesn't sound like they're working towards Villanueva becoming a Steeler again.
Well, and they're probably still going to draft at the position, you would think, right?
Right, probably. I think it's going to be day 3, not day 1 or 2, but they will add somebody, I imagine.
Okay. What % chance would you put on them re-signing Villanueva?
I think it's still pretty low. I mean, 10% maybe. I just don't see it happening. I mean, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I'll go 10%.
I mean, the longer that he stays unsigned, the more plausible it obviously becomes, right?
I guess just because he'll be cheaper, but he's either in the Steelers' plans or he isn't, and none of the moves Pittsburgh has made indicates he's even potentially in their plans.
All right. I mean, James Conner, you bring James Conner back on a 1-year minimum, right? But and let him fight for a spot. But other than that, you're not going to pay James Conner any more money, are you?
Only way I could see that is after the draft, to be honest with you, and you realize you didn't get a running back for whatever reason, and then you go back out there and re-sign James Conner. But I don't think you do anything until you get through the draft, and he's probably going to be signed by then.
Right. All right. Go. What else? Anything?
I think that's everything. We get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
All right, this one from Ted Webb on JuJu. He says, a lot of fans, me included, are glad JuJu is back for at least 1 year, but also the majority of us thought he would be gone, and we settled on Johnson, Claypool, and Washington as our 3, and Ebron at tight end. With JuJu coming back, could he maybe hurt the growth of Johnson and Claypool? I feel like these guys could explode going forward, but now JuJu back in the mix, he'll get his 80 catches, 900 yards, which is good. You can never have too many weapons. I understand, but I was just wondering. Thanks. I don't see how him coming back hurts the development of Johnson or Claypool. The key thing, and I think Alex wrote this weeks ago, is with JuJu coming back, you better use JuJu more than better than he was used this past season. You got to get him involved. You can do what they did with him with that underneath stuff and all like that, but you've got to be able to have some route combinations where he's going down the field. And I think one of the things that stuck out that I pointed out is, man, he's like targeted 9 times or something like that, more than 15 yards down the field or more than 12 yards down the field. You just can't do that.
Mm-hmm. This is I'm joking here, but this is a Steelers strategy to keep JuJu's market value low, force him to average 9 yards a catch, and they don't have to pay him a whole lot of money. But no, I want to see JuJu get more involved downfield. I don't think this stunts the growth or development of any of those guys. They're all going to play. You got 3-4 receivers that are heavily involved in your offense or play different positions. I don't think it stunts the growth of any of those guys.
The Steelers are officially announcing that they have signed Tyler Simmons to a 1-year contract.
And that was from Friday's show. We had mentioned he was at the Georgia Pro Day, got to work out down there, even though he's been in the league this past year because he didn't have his Pro Day last year. Kevin Colbert saw him and drafted him. So a pretty cool story there, but it's not impacting really much of anything from a Steelers, relevancy standpoint.
Absolutely. That should be a minimum contract and shouldn't even scratch the surface on right. That. Let's see if I can find some more. I know we got some more. Let me search it. I got so much junk mail in here. Let's see. All right. Running types I prefer in the draft. No, I think we already covered that the other day as well, too. I know we've got some more in here. At least I thought we did.
Maybe not.
Defensive player. Okay, I'm starting to believe the Steelers are going to go draft. Did we hit this from Michael Cantwell from Thursday? Starting to believe the Steelers are going to draft a defensive player in the first round and take offensive tackle and running back later in the draft. What are our biggest draft needs after signing so far?
I mean, they really haven't changed. I think maybe we did touch on this. They really haven't changed too much because they've lost just so many pieces. You're still looking at offensive line, center, running back, potentially inside linebacker. Edge depth is literally still non-existent on this team. That must be addressed. I think that'll get hit third, fourth round. Corner now obviously jumps up the board quite a bit. So plus nose tackle is now a potential option, though I think they probably let that battle play internally with Bugs and Carlos Davis. So the draft needs are basically the same as before, but only maybe one or two extra positions added, to be honest with you.
Richard writes in, how will the signing of Haeg and Killebrew affect compensation picks for the Steelers? Does this mean the Steelers will not get compensation picks from Mike Hilton and Matt Fider? Richard, we kind of addressed that from what we know so far a little bit earlier in the show. The Haeg contract ended up being a little bit more expensive than what I thought it would be. So far, it sounds like the Haeg contract going to potentially cancel out the who did they say, Tyson Alualu deal. Look, we'll see what happens with Villanueva and with James Conner. I would think those are the two highest profile guys that the Steelers have left at this point that could potentially maybe impact the formula, right? So we don't expect Killebrew to affect it if it's a qualifying 1-year contract. However, I thought that the Haeg contract wouldn't impact it initially as well too, but it does. So stay tuned to. We got time to track this for quite a while now, but we'll keep doing that, and we'll let you know as soon as we know what the numbers are on Killebrew. Chris Lookhart writes in, hey fellas, I had a random question. I realize that the salary cap is going to continue to go up every year, but is there ever going to be a time in 20 or 30 years where the cap just can't go up anymore? Maybe from inflation of the American dollar, owners can't afford it anymore, or maybe the luxury taxes that the MLB owners try to avoid in baseball by keeping their yearly payout under a certain amount. Thanks for being the truth tellers among all these so-called Steelers outlets. Chris, thank you for the email. Man, I wish I knew how to answer that. I don't have a clue what things are going to look like, 20, 30 years out. I mean, obviously, as if revenues keep increasing and there continues to be a salary cap and a CBA seems to get renegotiated every 10 years or so, it seems like, the NFLPA is going to want in other words, I don't think they're going to put a cap on the growth of this, right? I mean, the more, I guess he's trying to say is, I think it's just going to keep going up because the American dollar keep going up. The inflation of all that's going to keep going up as well too. So, I mean, 20 years out, I don't seem to see the system changing 20 years out.
Yeah, I mean,
unless something impacts it,
Sure.
Like we had.
I think the question is just, is there ever going to be a bubble that's going to burst where you just can't keep going up and up? And I think about that more in the context of just media deals. These media deals seem to get bigger and bigger. They just signed was a $113 billion media deal for the next 11 seasons through 2033 that starts a couple of years from now. Will that ever contract? Will there ever be a point, especially with cord cutting and some of these people not watching TV and some of the channels being hurt in that regard? Will there ever be a contraction in that sense? That would be my only concern about could we ever see things start to go backwards. But I would have probably told you that 20 years ago and had that same concern, and it just keeps going up and up. So it probably just forever will continue to go up and up the way it always has.
Right. All right, that's a good jumping off point, I think. I got some emails in there on a Monday show. Are we going to be back probably not going to be back tomorrow unless something major happens, right? So we're probably going to go Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on this show, and we'll leave open the option of maybe not doing Wednesday, depending on kind of what the news flow is, right?
Yep, play it by ear. Definitely be back for at least Friday, maybe Wednesday, depending on if any news comes across the next 48 hours. But be back at least by Friday.
All right. So in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, please go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, hit SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button up right navigational bar. For $25 for 1 calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of the site, and that's been very, very, very popular as of late. Man, we just appreciate all the make sure you tune into the Terrible Take. Are we going to do no YouTube live stream tonight, or no? What?
Correct. Yeah, that's scheduled for next week.
All right, next Monday we will be back with the 7:00 Eastern Time YouTube live stream. Make sure you're checking out the Terrible Take. That's been very, very popular. Dr. Mel was the Sunday Terrible Take. She had a great take. She had a great terrible take on JuJu Smith-Schuster's situation. We're going to try to talk Dr. Mel into doing every Sunday Terrible Take. So reach out to her on the Twitter machine at Girl Surgeon and say, hey, we want you to do the Terrible Take every Sunday. I think that's going to be potentially an option as well, too. That's gone over real, real well. And once again, we try to release those every day at around 5 p.m. Eastern Time. You can get them on Twitter, and you can get them on the site at SteelersDepot.com as well, too. So until potentially Wednesday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.